let's go back to what the 4% rule came from. It was a study that showed that if you invest a very certain way, right,
Yeah.
with half of
Right.
your money in really safe investments and half of it in growth investments,
Yeah.
you can retire at 60. You take out 4%, and that's your base. And every year you adjust that up for inflation based on what the consumer price index does. Now I've lost
Right.
our one listener by saying all that. But my problem,
Yeah.
my problems with that kind of a traditional approach is, number one, best case scenario, like you said, you die with way too much money and you
Yeah.
could have spent more. Number two is, just because consumer price index or inflation has gone up doesn't mean my investments have gone up. It doesn't mean that
Right.
my investments can afford to take a pay raise.
Right.
It's just me taking more money. So
And
we take a
also,
very,
who's making me have 50% of my portfolio in treasuries? Not me.
yeah,
I'm
no,
not the one doing it.
no, 100%. Yeah. And a lot of times people following that 4% rule, they're not investing that way. They're maybe
Right.
100% in stocks or
Yeah.
10% in stocks, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of pick and choose that happenings. And that's another reason why we don't use that approach. We take an approach where we are flexible. We usually will take out a higher amount initially for their
Yeah.
initial withdrawals. But we just talk to the clients like, hey, we need to make a deal with ourselves that we're not going to take a pay raise until our investments have earned a pay raise, right?
Yeah.
And if we're taking a higher amount now, we just need to have a deal that if we are in a situation where our investments have lost a lot of money, and I'm talking like a third of your nest egg, we
Yeah.
might need to cut back by 5 or 6% a month on our income. But history would show you that that kind of approach works really well for a retiree who's retiring in the 70s, right? In the time
Yeah.
of high inflation, high taxes, a
Yeah.
flat stock market that doesn't move for 4 years. If it works
Yeah.
then I feel really confident in today going forward that people can afford to be more flexible with their cash flow.
And there's a lot more that goes into it with cash flow planning and everything else to actually find out is that number going to work? Because
Yeah,
you said the first thing they want to know is, can I even afford to do this? Well,
yeah.
the way to find that out is to do cash flow planning.
How do you handle cash flow planning? If you have somebody who's getting ready to retire and they've got $1 million 401k and they're coming to you saying, and you're saying, hey, I think you could pull out 50 grand or 40 grand or
But
something.
I don't care about how much they have first,
Yeah,
because what we're going to do is find out what they're going to spend and
yeah,
then work backwards and say, yes, you can afford it. No, you can't. Or we're right in that middle ground where you have to decide how much risk you want to assume, or which
yeah,
one of these things you want to cross off the list in 11 years if we have to do a cutback.
yeah,
But the first thing is, what are you spending now? Really, not like a question, but actually an itemized list of what you're spending.
yeah,
Which one of those things are going to dramatically increase or decrease? So yes, the mortgage will be paid off, whatever, like literally build it all out
yeah,
and then spend some time daydreaming saying you're not doing it now, but when you retire, what are those things you're going to do? Are you going to take the grandkids to Disney? I'm in Pennsylvania. I have a lot of
yeah,
clients that snowbird to Florida, and the ones that don't, I model it out because as soon as they retire, they change their mind and they're going to, right? So what's
yes,
that going to cost? Inflate it. Are you going to do it till you're 90 or are you going to do it till you're 86? Put all that stuff in. And yes, every single year after that, replace an assumption with a fact, and that gets us closer to the truth. But you've got to start somewhere. So the first thing I want to do is figure out what they're actually going to spend in a perfect
yeah,
scenario to be happy, then work backwards and do the math to say, yes, you can afford it. No, you can't.
yeah,
Now, where are the decisions? No, you can't, but you still want to retire. Okay, let's start crossing stuff off the list that we're not willing to do. Or, yes, you can, but it's close enough that
mm,
a couple of these things might have to take a step back. Like you said, if we hit that bottom guardrail for a year or two in the future.